Well, this is an interesting story. Actually, it's an older story. I don't know how many people are aware of it, but it looks like Vladimir Putin's father, Vladimir Putin, the current leader of Russia, Vladimir Putin's father was actually in a Nazi collaborator, which, you think the Russians were against the Nazis at the time. But, actually, if you look back in World War II history, there's a lot of gray areas. There was Russians that fought on different sides. You just wouldn't believe it. It's not as clear cut as you think. But it looks, and this is allegedly a picture, and I don't think it's just propaganda because it's not the only blog I've seen this on, and it fits because the information came from a KGB defector. But this is Vladimir Putin's father on the left hand side with Nazis on that he's working with. And it was in 2003, Polish media reported that KGB defector Victor Suvorov found documents and pictures in London which show that Russian president's father served in a Nazi collaborating army led by Russian General Vlasov. So he was apparently captured. His father was apparently captured by British forces, but not before he helped crush the Jewish Warsaw Uprising in 1943. And actually, that was primarily a Jewish uprising against the Nazis, and they fought valiantly, but it was, it didn't work, obviously, against overwhelming odds. It doesn't state it was Jewish, but it was. I mean, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was predominantly Jewish against the Nazi regime. Again, this is another blog where it states it, and they state that he was fighting for the Nazis in 1944 during the suppression of the Warsaw Uprising. 1943, actually. It shows Vladimir Putin's father over here on the left. Now, you can say, no, whatever. But, actually, during World War II, there was a lot of gray areas, I swear. There was even English fighting on the side of the Nazis, and it wasn't, like, so super cut and dry because governments can say one thing, but people think another way. So, there was all kinds of gray areas. But what's interesting is that today we see Khodorkovsky, actually, who's been in jail for over 11 years now. Actually, it says 10 years. He should be getting out, I think, in 2014. But who knows? Maybe they'll put him up on trial again. That's their typical modus operandi, right? But, he's actually in jail more for principle now than anything. As people say, oh, he's tax evader, but, come on. It's getting a little ridiculous if you're accusing this guy of evading taxes the way the whole trial went down. But, he's half Jewish. He's half Jewish. So am I accusing Putin of being an anti-Semite? Yeah. All right. Okay. Because, I'm not pulling out the cliche left and right. Some people get tired of hearing it. But, in Russia, there is a lot of anti-Semitism, but I don't know how bad it is. It varies, but it looks like Putin is an anti-Semite. If it would be nice if Medvedev was actually president longer, because there could have been some serious reform going on, but nope, it doesn't look like it. It looks like we got a very authoritarian type of figure with a smooth personality that's running Russia. And he probably picked up a lot of his attitudes from his father, who was a Nazi collaborator. Now, my father was in the military police in Germany, watching out for Nazis. Watching out that there was any kind of problems with that kind of activity. Very close to the Communist Front and also in Korea. So, I got a very different attitude against this kind of garbage. But let me put it to you this way. If there's ever going to be freedom in Russia, the way I look at it is Vladimir Putin's billions and billions of dollars, and he's got probably $40 or $50 billion. If this guy could be taken down, I think that money should be redistributed to all the people in Russia in a form of Euro motorcycles, because to me, the two-wheeled mode of transportation is the absolute best, most efficient, and fun way to transport around. And it's these motorcycles are some of the best, most rugged motorcycles, and 100% made in Russia, are actually becoming very popular in the United States of America, too. But considering, like, a lot of Russia's above the Arctic Circle or near the Arctic Circle, I think a two-wheeled mode of transportation would be very impractical, but this thing can go in the snow like crazy, and you could take your little white fluffy dogs with lots of fur with you while you're driving around with your windshield in some 20-degree weather over there in Russia, and also staying warm with lots of vodka. So, the one thing is, I hope the Russian people can somehow bring this Putin guy down, and it just won't be a Western thing, that if his wealth gets divided up amongst the people, it should be hot babes, vodka, and two-wheel drive Ural motorcycles for every single man and woman in Russia that works hard and supports their own country, and get rid of the oligarch, because it's the guy is a little bit more than just an anti-Semite. He's very authoritarian, and I'm not saying that word correctly. I don't know what the deal is, but anyway, he's a dictator with a smooth exterior, and it's just, that's really what it is. And the guy looks like he's an anti-Semite, because every time he accuses somebody of being a crook, which I think Putin is probably the biggest crook going, it's almost like he accused this guy of being a crook and everything. It's like, if he actually he owed taxes, why is he in jail for 8 million years? You know what I mean? He just paid the taxes, and that's the deal. But nope, you got to get him out of the way, because why? He criticizes Vladimir Putin, and he's a very stand-up, honest Jewish person. So, I mean, I know there's criticism of Jews, but there's like good ones and bad ones. But it looks like Vladimir Putin is a hell of a lot worse than any Russian oligarch that was in power before, and he's picking up a lot of his cues from, I guess, his dad, who was a Nazi collaborator. And when you got that kind of attitude, and you suppress and oppress people, like in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising in 1943, it's probably just carries forward. It probably just carries forward. So, and I hope this message receives some. I'm being very honest about this. I'm not freaking kissing anybody's ass on this kind of crap. I'm telling you what I think is a blatant truth. That sometimes there are people that are, I know for the crowd that's out there on YouTube, there are some people that are Jewish that are up on the top of the business world that aren't good people. I think Bloomberg's a bad person, okay? But in largely, it's not like that, and largely there's a lot of anti-Semitism in the world, okay? So I'll just leave you with that. It looks like Vladimir Putin's father was a big-time anti-Semite, and considering that he was with the breakaway Russian army there, basically working with the Nazis. How's that? Suppressing uprisings against poor people in Warsaw Ghetto in Poland. So this guy is like the worst of the worst, but he's got a very, very smooth personality, and he's charismatic, and there's a lot of people that will like him for that reason. But that's not what it is below the surface. It'd been a lot better in Russia if that Medvedev was president, because he's not a Western puppet. He doesn't even speak English, for crying out loud. I mean, he's a Russian for his country all the way, but you would have got more reforms in Russia with Medvedev. And what you got here is with Putin, you got a gangster who's an anti-Semite, and he's playing like he's poor, and he's filthy rich. And I would like to see all the Russians in Russia get Ural motorcycles out of his wealth and plenty of booze and hot chicks, because you don't need to be supporting this guy. No way.